Picture this. You switch on your national broadcaster and bam, a scene straight out of a political thriller. That's right, the loudspeaker of the state is whispering secrets. Welcome back to @Global Pulse Newz, where we pull back the curtains and ask what's really going on behind the cameras. Today, we're tearing into MBC and its hidden agenda against Malawians. Grab your popcorn, hold on to your skepticism, let's dive in. On the morning of that fateful October day, the man at the helm of MBC, Mr. George Kasakula, didn't walk into a standard board meeting scenario. Chiambi chake chine ambambuino, but quickly it morphed into something far less ordinary. He was appointed as Director-General of the Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, a public service broadcaster funded by Malawians. But instead of being a guardian of balanced information, the signals suggest he stepped into a maelstrom of interference and control. According to reports, the apology he issued on air wasn't voluntary, it was compelled. In everyday terms, imagine your trusted radio station suddenly telling you what to think rather than letting you think for yourself. Zimenezi zirimbuino. When the boss is under pressure to confess on live TV, the question becomes, who's really running the show? In short, MBC's leadership shift was not just administrative, it appears to be highly politicised. But wait, if that's just the trailer, what's the full feature? Coming up. Changariapa. Things got physical. On Friday, October 10, 2025, a group of men reportedly stormed MBC's Kwacha premises in Blantyre, confronted Kasakula and forced him to deliver a live on-air apology to President Peter Mutharika and his party. Police records show that the two suspects arrested, Yona Green Malunga and Stone Mwandi, were taken into custody for suspected intimidation of the Director-General. In Chichiwa, monga muntu adatamangitsidwa ku studio mpaga apereke mau popanda kusanka. And for us as viewers, that moment shifted from news broadcasting into power broadcasting. The image of state media being used as a stage for political spectacle is chilling. This wasn't just cover a story, it was make a story with an agenda. If you think that's wild, buckle up, because the next scene is even more orchestrated. Now, let's break down the narrative. The claim is that the so-called threats to MBC staff were not simply spontaneous acts of intimidation, they may have been part of a staged narrative designed to mask partisan control and to frighten anyone who might ask tough questions. According to the Mail and Guardian analysis, when the head of a state broadcaster can be dragged before a camera and made to repent, everyone understands the message. In Malawian terms, and imonga kugulitsa chitsiru chaitali, you see the threat, you see the apology, but you don't get the full backstory. MBC's employees reportedly described the atmosphere as one of fear, fatigue, and internalized censorship. Those are not the conditions of a truly independent public broadcaster. And if you thought media bias was just subtle, here's where it gets bold. Here's the core problem. MBC is funded by the taxpayers of Malawi, all of us, and therefore its mandate should be to serve all Malawians, regardless of political affiliation. But critics say it is increasingly acting as a mouthpiece for one party rather than a platform for balanced information. According to the Media Institute of South Africa, Malawi, the manhandling of Kasakula was an assault not only on him as a person, but on media freedom. In everyday Malawian English style, imagine paying for a bus service that's supposed to take you everywhere, but it only runs in one direction. That is what happens when a public broadcaster flips into a political megaphone. The public loses trust, the message gets skewed, and the national conversation becomes one-sided. When the broadcaster becomes the politician's pal, what does that mean for you, the viewer?
Let's zoom out for a moment. Why does this matter beyond a single apology or raid? Because when your national broadcaster bends toward propaganda, the foundation of democracy shakes. According to commentary, Kasakula's televised apology wasn't just humiliation, it was a warning. This is a betrayal of journalism, said the MISA chairperson. In simple words, if the broadcaster is compromised, then how do citizens get truthful information? And if citizens don't have truthful information, how robust is their ability to make informed decisions? In Malawi, where the media environment is still consolidating and journalism salaries are modest, The threat of internalized self-censorship looms large. How deep does this rabbit hole go? Let's dig a little further. Here's where the subtle side of the agenda kicks in: silence. Reports inside MBC say that during the recent election and post-election developments, some stories were either downplayed or avoided altogether because they didn't align with certain political narratives. The Public Media Alliance wrote in 2020 that it is an open secret that some quarters of society view MBC as a mouthpiece of the ruling party. In a Malawi English mix, imagine you expect a full dinner buffet, but you only get one dish, and it's the one the host wants you to eat. That's the selective silence by MBC. When key issues are underreported or opposing views are squeezed out, the public debate becomes impoverished. The silence says more than the words. Stay tuned for what they didn't report. Next up, the fallout. According to the Nation newspaper, police arrested the two men involved in the MBC HQ incident, but then released them within hours. MISA Malawi called for the newly appointed Inspector General of Police to intervene and treat the incident with impartiality. In local terms, if someone storms your office, forces you to read a script on live TV, and then walks free, what kind of message does that send? It tells the public, if you mess with the narrative, maybe someone will handle you, but no, there's no real accountability. That undermines confidence in both media and law enforcement institutions. If justice stalls, what kind of message does that send? Coming up. Here's the ripple effect. When trust in a national broadcaster falls, people turn away. If you don't believe what you're hearing, you switch off or look elsewhere, maybe to less reliable sources, maybe to social media, maybe to hearsay. One local article emphasized the perils of partisan broadcasting and how MBC is under scrutiny. In our blended tone, it's like building a house on sand. The foundation keeps shifting. When your broadcaster is perceived as biased or controlled, you lose your anchor for verified information. Citizens become skeptical. They ask, which station can I trust? The answer should be all of them. But when one fails, democracy pays the price. Because when trust collapses, someone else fills the vacuum. Beyond Malawi's borders, this case echoes the global struggle of the so-called Fourth Estate, the press. The episode at MBC is a microcosm of how state media can be captured by political interests. According to the Mail and Guardian opinion, his written apology brought him regal relief. His televised one stripped him of dignity. In a Malawi English analogy, think of the media as the watchdog of the people. But if the watchdog is tied up, mushed, and muzzled, who watches the watchers? When the head of the state broadcaster is forced to kneel, the colleagues behind him get the message: report this, not that, question that, not this. The chilling effect is real. And if the media can't speak freely, who's left to hold power to account? Finally, here's the big question. What comes next for MBC and for Malawi? MBC stands at a crossroads. Will it become a genuine public service broadcaster or remain a political tool? Reports say that reforms are needed, legal, structural, and cultural. In Malawi English, it's like choosing between two roads. One leads to independence, credibility, and viewer trust. The other leads down to spin, suspicion, and public disengagement. You, the viewer, have a stake. If you demand better, you may get better. If you switch off and walk away, the agenda wins. Ready for the takeaway? Because this matters. So there you have it, 10 unflinching facts about the hidden agenda unfolding at MBC. This isn't a remote drama. It affects your access to truth, your democracy, your country. If you're as fired up as I am, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What should Malawi's public broadcaster really be doing? And hey, don't forget to check out our sister channels for some family-friendly fun. #SparklingKids and #RimaFatima. Let's grow together and be your voice as a family. Until next time on Global Pulse News, stay sharp, stay curious, and don't let the mic go silent.